everybody, and welcome to the Schatz and Tanier NFL podcast, previewing Week 5 in the NFL. I am Aaron Schatz of FTN Fantasy. You find me at ftnfantasy.com/DVOA, joined by Mike Tanier of themessenger.com. Check out his new article on what happened the last time a team had the number 1 and number 2 overall pick. It did not go as well as Chicago Bears fans are imagining it.
We can hope that if it was Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr., they're not Steve Empton and Quentin Corey out from the 1992 Bills. Colts, Trip down memory lane.
Yeah. All right. We have, don't forget, if you're listening to us afterwards on the podcast, that we are live on YouTube at 11 a.m. Eastern on Mondays and Thursdays, and you can ask us questions. And before we preview the week, we have a couple of fantasy questions. Now, I will tell you, we are not the best people in the world to answer fantasy questions, but I actually have answers for both of these. Mr. Nice Guy, that's very nice. Mr. Nice Guy for a PPR league wants to know Jahan Dotson or Sky Moore. I have Sky Moore in the FTN staff league, and I've basically given up on him. And the Bears defense is bad, so yes. Jahan Dotson all day long. Allentown wants to know he needs to start 1. Flowers, Pickens, Jonathan Taylor, or Jameson Williams. I don't know what Williams will do now that he's back from suspension. I would wait a little bit on that. Taylor is playing Tennessee. Tennessee has an awesome run defense, which we'll get to in a second. Pickens has Mitch Trubisky. So Zay Flowers is your choice. Zay Flowers would be the guy I would play out of those 4 guys. Any disagreement there?
No, I'm just living here in Allentown.
Living here in Allentown. You're living here near Allentown.
I won't be getting up today. Hey.
All right, let's preview week 5. We're going to skip Thursday night because blah. And let's start with a really good London game, actually. You don't get a lot of these. So I believe this is on NFL Network also. So if you have NFL Network, you get to watch it. And that is Jacksonville and Buffalo. Jacksonville makes the playoffs in 62% of our sims if they win and 40% if they lose. The Bills, 96% if they win and 84% if they lose. And, of course, the Bills are ridiculously strong to start the season. As I wrote about this week, they are the best 3-1 team of all time.
Wow. By
DVOA, slightly surpassing the 1996 Green Bay Packers. And imagine what we would all be saying about the Bills if they had had weeks 2 through 4 and had never had the overtime loss to the Jets. Like if we just saw the last 3 weeks, we would be talking about them as one of the all-time great starts in history because they have been so ridiculously dominant over the last 3 weeks, especially considering who they played last week, that they beat Miami 48-20.
You tackle the return man in week 1. And it's like, then and you get a field goal. Oh, you're 4-0. And that's like, that game is like off the radar. It's like, okay, weird stuff happened. Jets defense is good. But because of that, we're still in this 3-1 team place.
Oh, Allentown just posted on the comments that I never answered. Flowers. The answer is Flowers. Flowers is the answer. So the Jaguars defense is 7th against the run, but 15th against the pass. And, you don't want to be weak against the pass against the Bills. So, the Bills are not a very strong running team, but they
don't like that.
But they like to pass the ball. And the Jaguars have been killed by other receivers this year. So the Bills can go. First of all, I mean, Kincaid sort of is another receiver, but also like they could also go with 11 personnel and put like Khalil Shakir out there and do some interesting things against the Jaguars defense, which is not so deep when it comes to the cornerbacks.
It's not. It's funny that the Jaguars are vulnerable against other receivers, and yet they beat the Falcons, the team that uses nothing but its other receivers.
Well, but the other receivers don't count as receive, right? Because they don't count as. I count Smith as a tight end and Pitts as a tight end and Robinson as a running back, and
right.
I will say the Bills' defense has been weak this year against wide receiver 1. So maybe Calvin Ridley has a good game. His over-under is 56.5 yards. I went and looked that up.
I can see that over. It's just, they handled And they're missing Tre'Davious White, of course, now. But they hit Tyreek Hill pretty darn well last week, although I think part of that was they were handling everything else and they got the game tilted in their favor, and that makes it easier to handle.
Yeah. No more Tre'Davious White, but Von Miller may be back for this game. I feel like if you add Von Miller and subtract Tre'Davious White, that's mostly a wash.
That's a wash. I keep feeling the idea that, like, if Miller is close to coming back, I don't put him on a plane to London. You know,
I feel with you on that.
Right. So we'll see. I don't think the flights have left yet, or I haven't seen anything on that. But.
Listen, Jacksonville, I feel like they should be better than they've been so far.
Yes.
Lawrence has a really strange dichotomy where he is phenomenal by the PFF grades, but awful by all other advanced stats this year. He's having like bad luck. Like when you watch Lawrence, he looks like a stud.
Yeah, he does.
Right? Like if you watch Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy, and Tua Tagovailoa, and you judge them as quarterbacks,
right?
Lawrence should be the best of those three by a lot, right? But it's just not happening, and I don't know what the reason why is. He can't complain that he doesn't have receivers because Kirk is good and Ridley is good, and the offensive line is meh, but
Ridley has been super inconsistent. Ridley has dropped passes, dropped catchable passes. He has jumped off sides in places, etc. And I think that's one of it. If you're watching film, you look at these things and like, that obviously it became 3rd and 11, not 3rd and 6 because of an offsides penalty. Oh, there's a drop in a key situation, even though I don't think their drop statistics are that high. You do see like a miscue once in a while by Lawrence. You do see like a fumble by Lawrence in there, but it's like a pecking to that situation. He looks good, but all these things that look good on paper don't quite work out, especially on 3rd and medium, 3rd and long.
And I forgot to, third downs. The Jaguars are 29th on offense on third downs. They're having major third down problems. I forgot to look this up, but I think Cam Robinson is back at left tackle this week. I think he's one of the suspended players that comes back this week.
We have Cam Robinson as a full participant returning from suspension. That's right.
Yeah. So that makes the Jaguars a little better. So I feel like it's not like if the Jaguars win this game, even though the Bills have started so hot, it's not going to seem like a total shock.
Right.
It won't be like when the Jets lost Aaron Rodgers and beat the Bills anyway. Yes. But I feel pretty confident about the Bills. The line is 5.5, and I feel pretty confident about the Bills as the pick in this game.
Yeah, I especially, and I've got them at 5 right now. I feel comfortable right there at 5. Would take the Bills. Not super confident with the overall Jaguars defense. We don't talk about it much. Had a better game last week, but I don't think it's a very strong defense to stand up against a very balanced team like the Bills.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the 1:00 games. We're going to do all 1:00s for the most part here because the 4:00 games are not that good. They had to move Kansas City, Minnesota into the 4:00 window because originally the national game was going to involve the Jets. And now no one wants to see the Jets. So
Jets Broncos.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That was supposed to be the national game. So instead, Kansas City, Minnesota is the game for most of the country will get as the second game. The most important game for the playoff odds is Tennessee at Indianapolis because Tennessee and Indianapolis have both been a little frisky. So the idea that Jacksonville is going to run away with the AFC South has sort of not happened. So the Colts make the playoffs 39% of the time with a win, 15% with a loss. The Titans, 44% with a win and 18% with a loss. And the biggest thing I will point out here is the Titans defense, second in the league against the run, 25th against the pass. That defense is so incredibly slanted towards the front.
Yes. Yeah.
Like the pass rushing is good. The coverage is not good.
And they've been able to run into some teams so far who like, we want to establish the run against you. And it's like, no, we're not allowing that.
Now, what happens if that front faces a mobile quarterback, right? Because it's not like you just run Jonathan Taylor up into the line and then he gets 1 yard. And that, like, they're going to be zone reads. There's going to be runs for Richardson. Will they be able to get to Richardson on the outside? That's the interesting question, I think.
That we don't know. Yeah, they've not been tested with that so far. The running quarterbacks they've had so far were Deshaun and I guess Taysom Hill, if we call that. This is very different. You buried the lead there. Jonathan Taylor's back. Do we care?
Jonathan Taylor's back. Well, I didn't, because when we talked about Allentown's fantasy question. Jonathan Taylor is back, but he's facing the Titans' run defense.
Right.
I feel like the headline is like Jonathan Taylor is back next week.
Yes.
Yes, like he's back this week, but he's not. I don't think he moves the needle that much, especially considering who they're playing this week. I think he moves the needle more if they're playing against a team that with an average or a bad run defense. Yeah. I mean, I think he's a good back, and he should be healthier than he was last year. And apparently all the hatchets have been buried in Indianapolis, whatever the personal issues were between him and the team. Stephen Holder I think he's from The Athletic, seems to think that the hatchets have been buried. So yeah, Jonathan Taylor is back. But again, Titans, Jeffrey Simmons, Danico Autry.
And the Colts got nothing going in the first half offensively against the Rams, and then the Rams kind of got sloppy in the second half of that game. There's not a lot going on yet. Richardson's mobile. He can throw a snowball through a blast furnace. It's not a tight offense by any stretch of the imagination. So I don't see the Colts. They are frisky. I don't see them as this threat that's going to get out there, even against a sort of a mediocre team like the Titans, and take this step forward.
It's interesting. Tannehill has thrown deep passes, so 16 or more air yards. That's what the NFL considers deep passes. Tannehill has thrown a higher percentage of his passes deep than any other quarterback, and ranks 31st on deep passes.
He's got no one back. I mean, Nuke is on the downside.
Treylon Burks, woo!
Treylon Burks, yes, Treylon Burks. That's it. Leave that as that. But they're manufacturing offense. Derrick Henry. Tajay Spears not manufacturing a lot of offense. They're getting the ball a lot. They're getting enough opportunities, and they're getting something together.
Richardson, by the way, 32nd on deep passes so far this year.
It's the run, and they got that RPO, the stuff that the Eagles especially did early on with Hurts. They're doing a lot of that. So you get it out in the flat, get it into the slant, and then run. And eventually they got enough to throw a scare into the Rams last week. But for the first half, it was nothing.
The line is Titans -2, but the game is in Indianapolis.
I feel the Titans there. I'm trying to look at the over-under in this one because this could be
43.
I might go under 43. These teams, this is a pokey game.
Yeah, I'm feeling the Titans too. I think I do. The Titans are the Titans might be the team I thought the Patriots were.
Yeah,
just without the coverage.
Right.
Like, run heavy, very average, good on defense, except for pass coverage, but they have the strong front. The offense is just sort of, it's just
manufacturer.
Tannehill is just sort of there at this point. Like,
get your field goals, etc. Try to manufacture the win. If you like, and this is what I just pulled up, Titans -1.5 and under 43. Same game parlay +270.
Yeah,
that might make it a not that interesting game, except for playoff odds. One more interesting.
It is an interesting game for playoff odds because someone has to win the AFC South. Like, I mean, we talk. It's funny because I pick these games based on the playoff odds. I know that the South divisions are not as interesting to people as the other divisions. Right. I know that NFL fans on a whole, but in particular, people who, fans of our old website, we had fewer fans of the South teams than we did of the teams from the other divisions. But the South teams are there, kids. Like, they count. So
they're smaller markets. Nobody live in these towns. Nobody outside of Tennessee cares about the Titans. And by the way, it sounds like, so if the Jaguars pull an upset in the morning game, the playoff odds in this thing probably go like, boom.
No, not that much, not that much. But I mean, if the Jaguar, because the system does not expect the Jaguars to win.
Right, fair enough.
Baltimore at Pittsburgh. Now, this is more of a classic rivalry. Yeah. Ravens make the playoffs. 89% of Sims with a win, 69% with a loss. Steelers with an even bigger range, 63% with a win, 35% with a loss. Mitch Trubisky probably going to start at quarterback for Pittsburgh. And meanwhile, Baltimore, Bateman back to practice full.
Oh.
Marcus Williams full.
Okay.
Ronnie Stanley full.
Woo!
Odell Beckham limited.
Yeah.
Marlon Humphrey limited.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Hold on a second. Wait, I got a text here from Danny Football 77. Don't make fun of Matt Canada. He's awesome. He's misunderstood. All right, I'm just going to ignore this on it.
I did like you pointing out that Steelers.com is not how the NFL shapes its email addresses. They're actually usually team.nfl.com or team.nfl.net.
Yes, but it's a fun meme. This is that's not Matt Canada, folks. It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
He probably does not know how to use X or Twitter.
Probably doesn't care.
I hope not. If so, it's very sad.
I feel like this game, okay, the line is Ravens -4. I know the Ravens have some injuries. I do not feel like the game is that close. The Pittsburgh looks lousy this year.
Yeah.
And, it's not like we had them projected as an average team, and we had Baltimore projected as a pretty good team, and Baltimore looks like a pretty good team. I mean, they're 4th in DVOA so far.
Right.
And Pittsburgh looks lousy. And the one thing the Steelers have going for them, when I looked at all the splits and stuff, the Steelers are the number 1 defense in the league this year against tight ends.
Okay.
That's a good thing to be against the Baltimore Ravens, except Bateman back to practice full, Beckham back to practice limited, Zay Flowers is fine. Like maybe this is the game where Lamar Jackson looks away from Mark Andrews and finds his wide receivers.
Right. And I'm also looking at the tight ends that the Steelers faced. And except for Kittle, who I think was hurt at the beginning of the year, there's not a lot of there. So I don't know if there's that much of a test.
Jim Steckschulte says Pickett said yesterday he would be ready to go. I missed that. So, to me, there's not much difference between how much, they do that thing with Vegas. How much would you move the line based on the backup quarterback? And I don't remember what the number is for Pickett, but is he really that much better than Trubisky?
He's saving me from my bet the backup in his first start. Kenny Pickett is coming to rescue me from that meme. That offense, we're not going to pick on Canada. We're going to pick on Canada. It just looks improperly installed on top of everything else. I'm watching them against the Texans last week, and it's like, here comes the screen, and the blockers aren't there on the screen. Here comes the rollout this way, and there's an unblocked defender coming right into the face of.
They've had the thing with the 2 receivers in the same place a few times.
Yeah. And it's like, no matter what you're calling there, if you didn't install it right, it's not going to be effective. And that's why I keep coming back to watching. It's like, oh, here's the play that should work in this situation, and nobody's in the right position to run it.
Yeah. So Ravens -4, total 38.
Ooh,
the system likes an over.
Yeah.
And the Ravens. And I like the Ravens.
I like the Ravens. And I'm not going to whip out the same game on this one. I like the Ravens, but I'm going to lean towards that over.
Yeah. Atlanta at Houston.
There we go.
Right? Now, you're not thinking about this as being that important. And I know these are not big fan bases as far as our viewers, but the Falcons make the playoffs in 63% of sims with a win, 43% with a loss. Remember, that schedule is still easy. Not as easy as we thought, though, because among the teams that are better than we thought, the Houston Texans make the playoffs in 31% of sims with a win, 15% with a loss, surprisingly 11th in DVOA so far. This one has some really fun splits.
All right.
The Atlanta offense, 31st passing, 10th running.
Believe it.
The Houston defense, 7th passing, 28th against the run.
Interesting.
Bijan Robinson all freaking day.
You hope. And throughout that game, the Saturday morning game, he was running wild, and they were blocking for him. And it just, I want to see more of that from the Falcons. I'm done with the whole Kyle Pitts thing. Whatever. Run the ball. That's what you're good at.
Yeah.
Do it.
And by the way, the red zone, it gets even worse for Houston. Houston is number 1 against the pass in the red zone and number 32 against the run in the red zone. So run the ball.
Right.
Okay, now let's flip it around. Houston offense, 5th passing, 30th running. Atlanta defense, 27th against the pass, 10th against the run. CJ Stroud all day long.
CJ Stroud all day long. The legend of CJ Stroud.
And that's the thing is, passing generally beats running. So while I believe that Atlanta's best way to win this game is to run a lot of Robinson and run a lot of Algier, the line is Falcons -2, even though the game's in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling Houston.
Never, ever, 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 ever bet on the Falcons. Never bet on the Falcons. So you go with Houston here. Go with the legend of CJ Stroud. By the way, CJ Stroud is kind of purdying it for me right now. I got to go back and look at that game last week, and I don't think he really throws the ball downfield until it's already 13-0. I'm not.
I'd have to go look.
Yeah, it's a screen game. They got a lot of screen game, a lot of yak game. It's not a rip on Stroud. It's a break pumping on how this game is being talked about, how he's being talked about. Because in the last couple of games, the road has risen up to meet him a little bit. That's good for a young quarterback. I think that's fine in this situation. But I like the Texans in this one, in part because I just don't like the Falcons in general.
My break pumping is there have been other rookies who looked good through 3 games or 4 games.
Right.
Like Carson Wentz.
Yes, there's a very good example. Yeah.
Right. Like, so, don't crown him yet, but the same way I feel about the Bills being so good in DVOA, even though that doesn't guarantee anything, it's better to be good early than bad early. Yes. You don't want to be bad early. It's better to be good late. It's better to be good for your whole career than the first 4 games.
And you want to,
it's good that Stroud looks good.
Yeah. And you want to be in this developmental stage where, hey, I can get a win if I distribute the ball a little bit. And I get rewarded for that, and then I make 1 or 2 downfield throws, and I get the win. That's much better than saying I'm under siege, I'm going to get sacked 15 times. Young is in that situation, unfortunately, in Carolina. It's a much better thing. It's just we should be process-oriented when talking about these guys, and that's not how our industry really operates.
And check out the top 5 in receiving DYAR right now. Not in order. This is not in order, though. Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, and Nico Collins. And Nico Collins is second.
Nico
behind only Diggs.
He is yakking it up, too.
Yeah.
He is yakking it up when you watch these games. It is a little bit of quick flip to Nico, and he goes. I mean, he's done more than that. Everybody does more than that. But you can see him making that kind of contribution. I don't think it's sustainable at that level, but probably a pretty good ball player.
The DVOA pick system likes the Falcons slightly in this game, but I would tell you subjectively, I'm feeling the Houston Texans.
It's never a bad idea to not bet a Falcons game, folks. It's never a bad idea.
That's probably true. Betting it either way is probably a bad idea.
Don't let friends bet Falcons games.
Now the most important game of the day, the most important game for Super Bowl odds, and aren't we thankful that it's on nationally in the 8 p.m. slot? Dallas at San Francisco. Woo! Old school. Feels like the 90s, baby. Dallas makes the Super Bowl in 22% of sims with a win, 13% with a loss. San Francisco, 41% of the time makes the Super Bowl if they win this game. 31% they make it if they lose this game. San Francisco is basically in the playoffs no matter what. The Cowboys' playoff odds do drop to 79% if they lose this game. A couple of incredible stats just to start off here. Jim Armstrong does the drive stats for us. San Francisco in yards per drive last week was the second highest of any team in yards per drive in any game since 1993.
Wow.
It's just there were only 6 drives.
Right. Just eat the clock.
But it was crazy efficient. And then from the NGS people, Brock Purdy had a 28% completion percentage over expected.
Wow.
Yeah. So San Francisco, the offense is good.
Defense also good.
We're going to have some pretty insane arguments, I think, by the end of the year about Mike McDaniel versus Kyle Shanahan for Coach of the Year.
I mean, well, let's get there. Let's get through a couple more of these big games.
Yeah,
I've got a couple of years of Kyle Shanahan's coaching, and I'm taking into account like the 4th down decisions, which get wacky.
Yeah, right. Which Shanahan's not very good at.
Right, but I saw Jimmy Garoppolo in a Super Bowl once. So I have a comfort level with what he's capable of.
Dallas's defense is better against the pass. Here's the interesting thing. They're number 1 against passes to the left and the right, but number 27 against passes up the middle.
Where the 49ers go.
Right. That being said, it is a small sample early in the season. And there was one play by the Jets that gets a lot of those yards. So
okay, yeah.
I may have made more of that on Twitter than I expected, than it was really worth. San Francisco, by the way, is the number 1 defense on passes up the middle, where Dak Prescott is 31st. So the numbers at least suggest San Francisco wants to go up the middle a lot, and the Cowboys want to go to the sides.
Right. I feel comfortable that San Francisco wants to go up the middle a lot since they're very good at doing things there and working the shorter sidelines, etc. I'm still gauging the Cowboys' offense because the one time they really needed it, it wasn't that great. It's been fine.
It's been very average this year, which if you consider your priors about how good the Cowboys should be, they should be better than this. They should be better than they've been so far. They've been riding on defense so far.
They've been riding on defense, right? It's like, thanks for the 2 turnovers, etc. We can kick some field goals. That's kind of where they're at right now.
Another interesting matchup in this game. Dallas is the number 1 defense at stuffing running backs at the line.
Ooh.
San Francisco is the number 2 offense at not getting stuffed at the line.
Yeah, I don't know how much the Cowboys can do that when they're not facing like the Giants.
That is a strength against a strength, baby, right there.
That is a strength against a strength. Advantage 49ers, I think, in that.
I do think in general, if you think of the long run again, if you think of your priors of what we knew from last year, yeah, advantage 49ers there. 49ers are worse running to the right, but the Dallas defense is worse against runs to the right. So that's an interesting. Do you go behind Trent Williams to the left where the Cowboys are better, where Micah Parsons usually is, or do you go who's, by the way, good against the run, not just as a pass rusher, or do you go to the right where your blocking is not as good for San Francisco? What is it, Colton McKivitz or whatever is the right tackle, but the Dallas defense is not as good. It's sort of obviously you want to mix it and go sometimes left and sometimes right, but which do you do more? There's a lot of interesting stuff. This is a great matchup, and there's a lot of interesting stuff in this game.
I'm just realizing how often when I see McCaffrey running wild, it's on the left side of the field.
Yeah.
And that's, you're right-handed.
Trent Williams, baby.
Yeah, well, yeah, get behind him and go. That makes sense. And potentially get away from Parsons. Parsons is on the injury report. He's always on the injury report.
He did. He got hurt against the Patriots, and then we're like, it came out for a couple plays, and then he was back in. And
then he said, they don't need me the rest of the night, etc. So I think he'll be out there. He'll be out there, and I think he'll be close to 100%. Yeah.
The line is 49ers minus 3.5.
I don't hate that at all. I'd love 2.5 minus.
Yeah, I was going to say this is a do not bet for me. I would not bet on it. 3.5 is about where it should be, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right on the line. If you force me to place a bet, if I have to put all my bets in, I will probably lean towards the 49ers. They're the strongest up and down team in the NFC. They're the strongest up and down team with the Bills in the NFL. I would say from spot 2 to 53, they're the strongest team overall. And the Cowboys are the Cowboys, and they're more mercurial, and you have a higher ceiling, lower floor, etc. Overall, I'm going to lean towards the 49ers on this.
Yeah. All right, we'll preview Monday night on Monday's show. So that does it for today. I want to thank everybody for listening and watching us live. Again, don't forget we are live on YouTube at 11 a.m. Eastern on Mondays and Thursdays. Go read Mike's new stuff at themessenger.com, ftnfantasy.com/DVOA. For me, all the week 5 picks are up for DVOA subscribers, and I've added for subscribers, the historical archive now has DVOA as of a certain week going back to 2010, and a downloadable file with all the 2023 splits. So if you are a Stats Plus or Fantasy Plus subscriber, there is just a ton of DVOA data for you to get to find all the kind of cool splits that I talked about during the show. All right. That does it. Hopefully be popular. Yeah.
I know it's repopulating.
We're getting back to where we were at the old place.
Yes, we're getting there. Come back. Come join us.
All right. For Mike Tanier, I'm Aaron Schatz. We will talk to you again on Monday. Enjoy the weekend of football, folks.